Aloha. Brazilian farmer Drew, Garden to Garden, Sacred Herbs and Botanicals. Um, so I decided to do another new one. So I kind of do these when I'm inspired. Some say I need that script to make it more transpired, but transparent rather. But you know, unless someone asks me, I don't do these really. But I'm inspired to do this because it's a plant I've come to know quite well on the islands, and as a medicine and as a food. And it's this one here. You may know it off the bat. Um, it's in the 𝐤𝐢𝐿𝐵𝐾 or 𝐤𝐤𝐵𝐾, depending on where in the world or who you're talking to. It's in the coffee family, um, known as Morinda citrifolia, commonly known as Noni. You can find that in a health store all over the place. Noni or Nonu, or in TCM, 𝐰𝐢𝐿𝐵𝐻𝐻, and cheese fruit. And there's a reason for that last name because see that fruit there? This, what is known as an ovoid, grenade-like, lumpy fruit. It's unripe right now, but you can see the awesome, like, white tubular flower on it. See if I can get closer. Kabam! When that turns white or yellowish, somewhat like this is almost ripe. I don't know if you can see that too well, but I'll try to get underneath. There you go. Get out of there. So it turns like that. It'll kind of smell like a cross between stinky feet and rotten blue cheese. That's the only thing you got to kind of deal with when you're working with Noni. But they do juice it a lot for its medicinal purposes. But anyway, let's get into this. Noni, it's one of the traditional folk medicinal plants that had been used well over 2,000 years throughout Oceania. It's originally said to be from like Southeast Asia and Australia area, and then the Polynesian. This is one of the plants that canoe plants they brought over with them on their voyages, and it has been reported to have a broad range of different therapeutic and nutritional value. So things like cancer, arthritis, diabetes, asthma, hypertension, pain, and a whole slew of other things. I'll mention them in a minute. The whole plant is basically utilized from the roots to the leaves to the stem to the bark to the fruit and seeds. The whole plant is utilized, and the roots are also used for a natural dye for things like tapa cloths here in Hawaii and like fala mats. There's plenty of Polynesian stories where Noni is used for survival in stories, and as a famine food for survival and nutritional value. It has a long history of use in tropical regions throughout the world. One thing I want to point out is the bark is kind of like a grayish brown. It can be like a single trunk. This one has multiple trunks. And let's get up on this newer. You can kind of see it has these like inner nodes that almost like I mean it's not, but it reminds me of kava, but it has these like inner nodes between each stem, and that's pretty distinctive. And that's actually where you can like it propagates pretty easily, and it's a great permaculture plant for those of you looking for permaculture. An understory, it grows to about 9 meters max height. That's about 29 feet. And yeah, it has these large bright green or nice deep green, almost shiny like coffee, of course, glabrous elliptical leaves, and highly these venated patterns, very common in the 𝐤𝐤𝐵𝐾 family. And as I said, the fruit and the flowers also, when it's fruiting and flowering, is a dead giveaway. So you can't really misidentify Noni if you um, uh, look at for those characteristics. And I'll turn this around at the end to get a nice close-up. There's a bunch of them in here actually. I'm very surprised. I don't normally see Noni planted or on the margins of a forest. In this case I do. I did pass a Noni farm, so perhaps they're escaped these or they were planted here for cultural preservation, as there's like coconuts and other culturally significant plants here. So I want to get into the medicinal history of this plant. But you know, the medicinal history and accumulated scientific studies on Noni to date pretty much have confirmed that it's a has long-term ethnopharmacopoeia use, and which is indeed is now being believed to be quite complex. And I find that funny because to me it's just contemporary science, and medicinal communities are just now starting to study the plants from such a knowledge base has been around for millennia, right? And that leads into other discussions, of course, but I just find that ironic that something so profound is now being looked at. But it's been looked at for a number of years, but now it's just being affirmed. So the fruit juice, basically, of that's one of the, and the leaves are great for tea too, but the fruit juice is like the stuff. Yeah, that's what you'll find in the stores usually. They do sell Noni capsules, so they powder the fruit. It is, again, it's hard to do, so you might find the juice like sweetened, or you might have to sweeten it a little bit with whatever, or mix it with other stuff for your smoothies or juices and things like that. But it's great for, as I said, some of this arthritis, diabetes, high blood pressure, muscle aches and pain, menstrual difficulties, headaches, AIDS, heart disease, all types of cancers, gastric ulcers, sprains, mental depression, poor digestion, and blood vessel problems, and drug addiction. So also traditional medicine has we used it for in Hawaii, at least, for like broken bones, sprains is used, broken bones, sprains, bruises, and wounds, in addition to things like the diabetes and cancers that I mentioned. And a lot of that is the folk not taxonomic, but ethnopharmacopoeia uses. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. I wanted to keep it short, just list those medicinal applications. Oh, and it has a slew of like, how do I say that? Like chemical properties and bioactivity. So like, for example, anti-inflammatory effects would be like a bioactivity. It's so many, which are encompassed in what I broadly defined for you. So Noni is pretty much used, so for someone, if you have any kind of disease or problem, Noni is the plant to go to. It's a great plant for mixing in, and then I think in traditional Chinese medicine, they it's known as like to balance so they do the micro yin and the macro yin and yang, micro yin and yang, macro yin and yang. So the micro yin and yang are manifested into the macro, into what we see and what we feel and things like that. So Noni is known to balance that and fix other issues when you have like through food. You may have like a weakness or a poor state of something, but not necessarily a disease. Noni is also something that can regenerate and build you up. So it's an all-around great plant to incorporate into any medicinal application as a support herb too, but a standalone, it's also amazing, as I said. So yeah, I'm just gonna turn it around real quick and I'm gonna leave it at that for you and just show you some of the features of the plant. There's a couple others, I'll put those on here, and I really hope you enjoyed this. There's other medicinal benefits of Noni. I didn't list all of them, like eye problems and things like that. You can feel free to leave them in the comments if you know about it and if you use it. Yeah, and if you need any other info, feel free to ask and I'll be happy to answer that for you. So again, Morinda citrifolia, Noni, amazing. You know, I forgot to say this, I know it's a long video, bear with me. One of the things I don't believe, and I'm guilty of this because they make me do it, but when I'm gardening a lot, people want to remove this plant. And I'm dumbfounded at the idea. I'm like, are you sure you really want to remove this plant? Because they see it as a weed. So yeah, and the definition of weed is just that. It's what we view as something we don't want. That doesn't mean that it's not beneficial or useful or has a purpose or serves a purpose for us and the rest of the world. Because of course, all plants do. It's just a matter of how our perspective is on them and how we build our relationships with the natural environment around us. And instead of seeing a weed in your nice, precious, manicured lawn, you have something that can potentially save your life and the life of other people there. Let it grow. I have persuaded some to do that, and I'm fortunate to be able to work in such a profession that allows me to. But it's a great plant to plant in an understory permaculture food forest or guild, you know, if you just have something simple. Yep, and that's that. I just wanted to leave that last rant for you to understand, you know, how powerful something can be, especially if you live in the tropics. This is one of the ones you want intercropped in there. So mahalo from my heart. Thank you for hearing me out, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time, Brazilian farmer Drew, Garden to Garden, Sacred Herbs and Botanicals. Enjoy the view on the plants, and aloha. Morinda citrifolia.